Shalom, Israel. Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. This is the Ivri edifier. Today's lesson is going to be on the sons and the daughters of Zion, the lions of Zion and the daughters of Zion. How we get back right with our queens, how we get back right with our women, how we get back right, the type of woman that we want as a lion, the type of woman that we expect our women to be or that we would want our women to be. But our behavior have to mirror that. If that's what you want, then you should be behaving in a way to get that type of woman, because the woman is our helpmeet based on what Genesis states. The woman is our helpmeet. So the woman has to be confident that they're protected, be confident that they are covered by the tents of their men, and not think that they have to do things on their own, that they guys is gonna hurt them or harm them. They gotta feel wanted and protected. So brothers, before I get into the daughters and the lions of Zion, let me give you guys a history of who you are. Before we get there, know who you are so you can know what you need to do. Because if you think you are a Gentile, you're going to behave like a Gentile. But understand you're the salt of the earth and that you're pure gold, my brothers.
Where did the word Hebrew come from? The word Hebrew is an English rendering of the Latin Hebraicus. Should you read from the Dead Sea Scrolls, you won't see the word Hebrew, but rather Eve, what we now pronounce Ewe. This is the true name of the children of Israel, the Israelites. Where do we see the first time this name is used in the Torah? Genesis 14. And the fugitive came and told Abram, the Hebrew. The word rendered as Hebrew here is spelled Yud Resh Bet Ayin. In English, you will spell this Ivri, and it's pronounced Eve. So the text will read, Genesis 14, and the fugitive came and he told Abram the Eve. Abraham the Eve.
Strong's H 5680. Ivri. Strong's H 5677. Aver.
When you go back in time, before the Europeans met in 1844 in Berlin to define their trade zones, and as a result, divided the African continent amongst themselves. You will notice this geographical area that was once called the Slave Coast. You will notice this stretches from the Volta River in Ghana through Togo, Benin, Dahomey, and Nigeria. These four countries that now occupy this stretch of land was one territory, and the people that occupied this stretch of land were called Eves. Eve is the original name of the people who lived on this stretch of land from Ghana to Nigeria. The name, however, morphed to Ewe because the V sound does not have an English equivalent. So the letter W was substituted for the V sound, and the name and pronunciation morphed to Ewe. Ewe is actually a female sheep. During the translation of the Torah, translations of the Bible began into English. The translations were from the Latin version of the Bible, not from the original language. So instead of using the original name Eve, they translated the Latin rendering Hebraicus to English as Hebrew. Hebrew, therefore, is a double translation of Ivri.
Depending upon the translation of scripture that you are using, you may see the words pagan, Gentile, or heathen used. In Hebrew, the word goy or goyim is used. It may simply mean a nation or people. It can mean both those that are and those that are not descendants of Abraham. Sometimes it is referring to the nation of Israel, descendants of Abraham, and other times it refers to other nations.
Let's highly identify this. Fact, the Messiah did not come to save non-Hebrew Gentiles. Fact, the Messiah, who the world knows as Jesus the Christ, did not come to save non-Hebrew Gentiles.
You must understand that there are two sets of Gentiles. All right? You have the other nations that are not Israelites. They are Gentiles, yes. But the Gentiles that were grafted into the covenants, the Gentiles that were prophesied to come to the truth, the Gentiles that Paul taught, those were Israelites that were scattered in other lands. And we're going to prove that.
Jews and Gentiles. Did you know that in the Old Testament, the Gentiles were once 10 out of the 12 tribes of Israel? Israel was made up of 12 tribes when it first got established in the Promised Land. Israel was God's bride. During the reign of King Solomon, Israel fell into idolatry, and the Lord divorced himself from his people. Israel divided into two houses, the house of Israel, known as the Gentiles, and the house of Judah, the Jews. Israel committed adultery and divided, but God redeemed Israel and joined it back to one. Luke 19:10. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. Ezekiel 37 explains how Jew and Gentile become one in the metaphor of two sticks. Behold, I will take the stick of Israel, the Gentiles, with the stick of Judah, the Jews, and make them one stick, and they will be one in my hand. This clarifies what Yeshua was talking about in Matthew 15:24. But he answered and said, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Based on the mistranslation of Genesis 9 verse 27, many theologians are falsely teaching that Japheth's descendants and territorial boundaries were greatly enlarged through the divine blessings bestowed upon them from Noah. For example,
now, God enlarged Japheth and all of his peoples. The descendants of Japheth are many more than the descendants of Shem. And so he's going to enjoy the blessings. The descendants of Japheth are going to enjoy the blessings of the God of Shem.
In the Hebrew Bible, the word used for enlarge is the word patah. According to the Hebrew and Chaldean Dictionary of the Old Testament, the word patah does not mean having increased land, people, or territories. Rather, within the biblical context, the word patah is always used to describe the actions of simple-minded people, who in a slanderous or sinister way, are easily enticed, easily deceived, and easily flattered, in a mental or moral sense. Therefore, when applying the correct translation of Genesis 9:27, the verse should read,
Let's look at Genesis 9:27. Elohim will entice and deceive. The Hebrew word there is patah, patah, he will deceive Japheth, Ashkenaz, the sons of Japheth, and he will dwell, that means Ashkenaz will dwell in the tents of the Shemites. Genesis 9, verse 27.
Now, if Noah really intended to enlarge Japheth's territories, Noah would have used the correct Hebrew application, such as the Hebrew word, pronounced Rabbah, or the Hebrew word, Rakab. For example, in the Hebrew language the word Rabbah means to make great, enlarge, or multiply one's people, animals, or things. Also the Hebrew word Rakab also means to enlarge one's territories. However, in reference to Japheth's descendants, the Hebrew word used by Noah, in Genesis 9 verse 27, is the Hebrew word, patah, which, having explained earlier, describes people's actions, that are, deceitful, gullible, simple-minded, and unwise. This is why you will find that many theologians, especially of Japhetic origin, have deliberately continued to mistranslate the true meaning of Genesis 9, verse 27.
Read the 6th chapter of Genesis, when the Bible describes each of the sons of Noah. When God said to Abraham, I'm going to bless you and your seed, it didn't include Japheth, the Gentile tribe. It's not from Shem. And they look just like the Europeans, the Eastern Europeans. They look like all the white Jews that you see in the United States and South Africa and in Europe, because that is their relatives. The children from Poland and Russia were promised nothing. But the white Jews took over Judaism. And they are the ones who are saying, we want Jerusalem.
Pause that. Former president of the United Arab Republic stated he could not respect the present Jews because they left Israel black and came back white. Read the Antiquity of the Jews, book 1, chapter 9, verse 7, chapter 14, 1 and 3. This is what Gamal Abdul Nasser said. This is what Gamal Abdul Nasser said. He cannot respect the present Jews because they left Israel black and came back white.
We want Samaria. We want the Arab land. And they say, when you ask them, why do you want them? They say, God gave it to us. That's a lie. God didn't give Japheth anything. Japheth was not included in the covenant. Only the children of Shem, the children of Abraham. And we know what they look like. No one wants this truth to be heard, because it makes it difficult to start saying, Israel is ours, we must protect our land that God gave us. God gave you nothing. God gave the land to the children of Ishmael and the children of Yaakov or Jacob. Read the Jewish Bible.
Are or is the Japheth community of people cursed? And by cursed, I mean to be the promoters of war, the promoters of sodomy. In fact, he doesn't have any competition in promoting sodomy. He's just good at it. He's just good at it. The promoters of slavery, These are three major things that no one can deny that the Japheth man is better at it than anybody else. They're still for slavery. They're still for sodomy, and they're still for war. They got ISIS, they got Al Qaeda, they got Hezbollah, they got all kinds of Muslim warfaring groups. They're gonna be more. That boy is a warmonger like you ain't never seen. He's a sodomy lover, like he's a freak from Greek. He's a Greek freak. That sodomy, that Japheth boy. And he loves to enslave people. He loves to enslave people.
A group of people who are inferior use their imagination and create an illusion that they are superior. There is nothing in recorded history to document that the Caucasians are superior. Nothing. Well, you do not have the architecture structures to validate that. You do not have the clothing. Nothing. When you read the book Race and Civilization, you find out that they just stopped cannibalism in 1946 in Germany. They invented themselves in history. They write themselves in history, but when you go back, there is no history other than the Ice Age. There is nothing else. They have no other place in history. They are not Romans. They are not Greeks. It's not normal behavior to invent history. You are inferior. You do not possess the intelligence of African people. You do not have the architecture structures to validate that. You are inferior. You are inferior. You are inferior.
Did you know? Contrary to false interpretation, the name Japheth does not mean spacious, beautiful, or fair-skinned. For instance, according to the ancient Paleo-Hebrew language, the etymological meaning of the name Japheth comes from the root word pathta and means opened, as in one who opens wide the mouth in gossip, flattery, or slanderous talk. According to the Jessenius Hebrew and Chaldean lexicon, the term opened is defined as one who spreads wide, or opens wide, his lips continually, like a garrulous man, in foolish, meaningless, or babbling speech. In conclusion, from its root word pathta, the name Japheth is also understood to mean one who is silly, deceitful, simple-minded, and unwise.